Welcome back, everybody. Just a real quick video. Before I sell another firearm, I wanted to make this video showing you why I'm doing what I'm doing and feature this Sig Sauer P320 compact, or carry I believe they call it, not compact, and the Glock 19X. And I'm afraid the Glock 19X is losing out to the Sig for me. They're both excellent firearms. They both do what they're supposed to do. They both are reliable. They both have a long life. They're easy to maintain, and there's just a few subtle differences that on a budget I have to weigh what's better for me and go with that route so I can keep the wife happy and the cash flow going. Of course, this is this Glock 19X, which is not quite apples to apples, but they're close enough. The Glock has a little larger grip, which affords it, especially with the extended magazine, a larger capacity, where the Sig P320 is down a round or two on capacity, not much. A few small differences that don't make a bunch of difference to me into why I'm selling the Glock, possibly if I get approval from the wife, because she wants to shoot it a little more and because she's kind of liking it, although she hasn't shot the Sig yet to make that determination. The rail, of course, is a little bit different, a little more of a Picatinny style rail on the Sig, where you only get one notch on the Glock. The slide on the Glock is just a hair longer, and the grip is obviously a different angle, and that's one of the biggest reasons I just don't shoot it well. I have a tendency to shoot low with these when I try to do a more rapid fire double tap or stressful type situation. That hump on the back of the grip and the angle simply makes me shoot low because I'm just not used to it. And rather than having to have me get accommodated to the gun, I'll just go with the grip angle that works best for me. This has got, of course, a higher bore axis on it. You can see the difference is quite a bit. It's actually quite striking, the difference in the if you line the bottom side of the grips up, you can see how much higher the bore axis on the Sig actually turns out to be. When you line the slides up, you can see how much lower the grip is on the Sig. That just means it's going to flip a little bit more when you fire it, but the Sig handles the recoil remarkably well, and I don't really seem to have a problem with that. They both have night sights. The Glock has the tritium, and the Sig has their own Sig light sights on it. Excellent sights. No problems with either one in that respect. They both take down about the same. Glock, of course, has the little pull down lever. You do have to pull the trigger. The Glock does have, when you disassemble it. The Glock also does, speaking of triggers, have the little safety trigger in it. My heater kicked on. Hopefully that isn't going to affect us too much. We are clear here. Just lock the slide back. To take down, it's just simple on the Sig also. Use my strong thumb. Get that lever pushed forward. You don't have to pull the trigger on the Sig, and apart it comes. If we compare internals on the and the Glock, you can see they're really similar. Again, we are clear. Typical Glock takedown, and then you got to pull the trigger to get the slide to release on it. You can see the slide on the Glock is just a hair longer, not enough to make a huge difference. If you look at them, they're virtually twins, as most polymer striker fired guns are these days. Both extremely reliable. Recoil springs are very similar. It's a flat spring on the Sig and just a regular round coil spring captured on the Glock. Assembly on the Sig is just one step more. You simply got to lock it back. Make sure we got the right slide on the right firearm. Get things lined up. And of course, when I'm assembling a gun online or on video is going to fight me a little bit, working around the camera. The trigger wins out on the Sig a little bit too. The Sig simply has a better trigger pull. The difference is just minuscule, and by minuscule I mean extremely tiny. And we'll demonstrate, since we know they're empty. We have the long take up and rather a mushy trigger on it. You can see all that mush that's in there. Reset, typical length on a Glock, a little bit of mush for it. Pulls a little bit of grit in it too. The Sig trigger, again, we're empty. You can see it's much shorter, and the feel of it is much crisper. The weight of it's probably very similar, and much shorter and crisper trigger pull on the reset. So the Glock loses out to the Sig in many respects for me. It's just subtle little teeny differences. There's no doubting the reliability of either firearm. There's no doubt that the Glock in this case has a greater magazine capacity, simply due to the nature of the build of the gun. But in my case, the Sig Sauer is winning out. Reasonably priced. They're similar in price with the night sights and everything included. The Sig might be just a hair more, which is typical. Build quality on these guns is superb. It's going to be hard to find a flaw on it, although the Glock, there's nothing at all wrong with the build quality on the Glock. And all it comes down to is a matter of which one do I shoot better. In my case, the Sig Sauer wins out. And you'll notice I have Talon grips on both. It's just what I prefer. This is their moss color. That's what they call this. You can see how well it matches the flat dark earth firearm. If you wanted to go with black, it would look great too. I think there's a premium on the colored ones going over the black, but that's what I have to do to both of them, so they're fairly equal in respects of how I have them set up. No other modifications to either firearm. So there's the new Sig Sauer P320 with the light. This one has the lightened trigger in it, so that it won't drop supposedly on, or won't fire when you drop it, as they had problems with the early ones the military did. Of course, this is not the military version. This is the carry version. A little bit smaller in dimensions. So there we have it. I like to keep a 9mm for practice and for in emergency situation. 9mm is extremely easy and plentiful round to find compared to my preferred caliber, which is 45 ACP. Just a fan of that cartridge. Again, I'm not going to argue the 45 versus 9mm argument. Both have their merits. Both will do the job. It's just what you prefer and are comfortable with. So there we have it. The new Sig Sauer P320, my go-to practice and bedside gun, possibly. We're going to take a look at another Sig next and show you what I actually have planned for it as far as a home defense style gun. So thanks for coming along. We'll see you next time.